Croeso i'r darllediad yma, lle fydda fi, Hywel Edwards, yn cynnig trosolwg sain i chi o'r The Carmarthen Journal. Bydd y darllediad yn cael ei torri lawr i 3 pennod. Yn y pennod gyntaf, byddaf yn ymdrin â straeon mwyaf sy'n cael eu cynnwys yn un o prif papurau Sir Cyfyrddin. Yn yr ail, byddaf yn cynnwys y straeon mwy lleol a hefyd y dudalen Cymraeg. Yna, yn y pennod olaf, y hysbysebion bach, amaethyddiaeth a chwaraeon. Welcome to this broadcast in which I, Hywel Edwards, will offer you an audio overview of the Carmarthen Journal. This broadcast will be broken down to 3 episodes. In this, the first episode, I'll be covering the larger stories that are being covered in the Carmarthenshire newspaper. In the second, I'll be covering the more local stories and the Welsh page, and then in the final episode, the small adverts, agriculture and sport. So let's begin. Town hits back at TV soap hole slur. Whitland councillors are demanding an apology from TV producers after the town was branded a hole on Welsh soap opera Pobl y Cwm. At the September meeting, they were told an episode had featured Narberth when the slur came from a character on the show. They say they work hard to improve the town and its reputation, and the soap, which was broadcast across Wales, had gone against that. Councillor Bentley Evans raised the issue, saying, "I was a bit disturbed watching Pobl y Cwm. They were down in Narberth, and this bloke said, 'Where are you going?' 'Whitland.' Then they said, 'Whitland? You're going to a hole of a place like Whitland?' Mr. Evans said he was keen for the council to seek an apology." And moving on to "Don't make me a scapegoat for loss of mobile signal." An angry Laugharne landowner has refuted claims allegedly made by mobile phone giant EE that she refused access to fix a faulty mast. Phone users in the township had been left frustrated and angry with EE after more than 12 days without signal. One EE customer who will be following developments closely is Liz Handford, who owns the land that the EE mast is sited on. She said some customers had been told Miss Handford, as the landowner, was preventing access to the mast. She told the Journal, "Someone came to my land. He was angry and accusing me of preventing a solution to the problem. It has been a very distressing ordeal and has left me really upset. EE have used me as a scapegoat. The telecommunications company has now released an apology for inconvenience caused to customers in Laugharne, saying the mast was damaged by ex-Hurricane Bertha." Phone firm sorry after connection breakdown. BT has apologised after entire villages were left without any phone connection for 2 weeks following a major fault. Villages from Cwmdiad to Cwmdwyfran lost their phone connection on August 14th when a lorry collided with poles, damaging telephone cables. The fault also meant that phone booths in the area lost their connections. With mobile phone signals sketchy, many people lost all means of calling. BT has been criticised for the way many elderly residents who rely heavily on their phones were left cut off by the fault. Raymond Barrett's 91-year-old mother Lillian lives alone in Cwmdiad and has a security necklace with a lifeline installed which alerts family members and the emergency services should she have a fall at home. The system relies on a BT phone connection, and Mr. Barrett said he fears that if she was to fall, she would not be able to call for help. Mr. Barrett said, "There are a lot of others there living on their own and relying on their safety necklaces." He said, "People are complaining. It's not just my mum. It's the whole village. You can't leave a load of old people down there who are relying on a telephone for safety. It's got beyond a joke. It should have been a priority because people's lives are at risk here. These are old people who might fall over at night and have no way of calling." Residents in Conwy Elfed and Cwmdwyfran were given mobile phones by Carmarthenshire Council last week, and calls to their home phones were diverted to the mobiles. This meant they could call and receive calls despite the fact the cables were still not fixed. Councillor Irvon Jones said, "I went to BT and I went to the council offices first of all because I was worried about the older people, many of whom are over 80 years old. I said they don't have a phone, they can't use their lifelines. BT engineers have since been in the area trying to install temporary phone cables, but the work may not be completed until September 13th. Call to get flag flying high above castle. One of Kidwelly's most recognisable residents and a symbol of the town has complained that there is no Welsh flag flying above its castle. Councillor Peggy Davis, who is more commonly known as Hen Fenyw Fach Kidwelly, has called for the Red Dragon to fly above the castle, especially with the town about to celebrate its 900th anniversary. She has appealed to Cadw, which runs Kidwelly Castle, to install a flag in the castle, but her requests have been turned down. Mrs. Davis said, "They said there was nowhere to put a pole. I thought that's just silly. There are plenty of places to put a pole up there." She added, "It's a hefty castle and a great castle, and it needs a flag waving there." During the recent National Eisteddfod, an American visitor to the area asked her why there was no flag anywhere in the castle, and Mrs. Davis, who was wearing her traditional costume at the time, could not answer him. She said, "For me, it's important that the flag of Wales and the flag of St. David or Owain Glyndŵr are waving there." Mrs. Davis has even offered to pay for the flagpole herself, but she has not received an answer from Cadw. I said I would buy a flagpole, and I'll buy the flag, but I have heard nothing. She added, "I've got a flag of St. David outside my house, and a Welsh flag. That's what I got for Christmas. And I've got the black cat, symbol of Kidwelly too. That's all I want is a flag above the castle." Cadw has said that as well as not having an adequate place to position any flagpole, there are historic reasons for the decision they have taken. A Cadw spokesperson said, "There was no evidence of a flagpole ever existing at Kidwelly Castle, and the organisation has a responsibility to adhere to the historical integrity of the castle. Since there has never been a flagpole at the castle, they say they cannot install a new one." Further lorry chaos as new wall smashed. Less than 24 hours after announcing a public meeting over lorries causing damage in their village, people living in Llanllwch awoke to find another wall smashed by a passing heavy goods vehicle. Dudley Evans of Manor Way has set a meeting for Monday, September 22nd, after the village continues to be blighted by lorries trying to negotiate the narrow roads. Last Thursday, the village was rocked by another incident. Mr. Evans said, "I heard an almighty noise at around 6 a.m. and jumped out of bed, opened the curtains and couldn't believe my eyes. The wall across the road was in pieces." The couple living opposite Mr. Evans did not wish to be named, but said the meeting later this month was now an even more pressing. They said, "This is the second time our wall has been smashed by a lorry. The first incident was in 2007, and the damage was pictured in last week's journal." The couple added, "It seems lorry drivers are ignoring the 7.5-ton weight limit and blindly following their sat-navs in the lorries. If new signs are put up in a clearer place as you come off the dual carriageway, what is to say that drivers will even take any notice? If the sat-nav tells them to go through our village, then they will. Signs are being ignored now, so new ones could well be too." Town and County Councillor Alan Lenny visited the couple to see the damage last week and will also be at the meeting later this month. He said that Sutra has now contacted Carmarthenshire Council to get details of the existing signage location with a view of placing new ones which will be more visible not at right angles to the road. He said it will mean even the largest lorry can go 200 metres along to the Mart roundabout and turn around to get back to the A40 dual carriageway. Speaking about the latest incident, he said, "It is high time the problem was solved. The people of Llangynna have had to live with the damage and danger through the village for long enough. The meeting will be held at 7 p.m. at Llanllwch Church Vestry." Teenager jailed for honesty box theft. One man lost his home and another was jailed after stealing more than £200 from an honesty box in Pendine. Liam Anthony Howe, 20, from Grove Caravan Park, and an 18-year-old who cannot be identified for legal reasons, both pleaded guilty at Llanelli Magistrates Court to a single count of theft. The men had been dropped off at Pendine Esplanade at 2 p.m. on July 23rd, after consuming 2 litres of white cider each. They began walking back to the Grove Caravan Park, around a mile from the seafront, and past a house owned by Dawn Pierce. Prosecution solicitor Leslie Harbund said, "Both saw the house, and attached to the house was a barn, used for a fruit and veg stall. The stall is unmanned, but had an honesty box screwed to the counter." She added Mr. Howe had entered the barn and forced open the honesty box and taken the cash. He had then taken the box and ran away from the scene. The pair ran to a lane near Morver Bay Adventure Park. OAPs admit perfume theft. 2 shoplifting pensioners have admitted stealing £500 of perfume and aftershave from Debenhams in Carmarthen. Barbara Elsa Griffiths, 68, from Seaside in Llanelli, and 71-year-old Fred Lewis from Port Tennant in Swansea pleaded guilty at Llanelli Magistrates Court to theft from a shop. The pair were spotted on CCTV cameras by the St Catherine's Walk store's security officer at 3:20 p.m. on June 22nd, acting suspiciously. Prosecution solicitor Leslie Harbund said, "Gary Melbourne, who is the security officer at Debenhams in Carmarthen, says that both parties have walked into the store. Mr. Melbourne at the time was watching them on CCTV system. Mr. Lewis had in his hands a piece of paper, and it looked like a list." Griffiths and Lewis took a selection of perfumes and aftershaves from the shelves and walked into the bathrooms. When they emerged from the bathrooms, the perfumes and aftershaves were nowhere to be seen. Security officers were waiting by the door, and as they tried to exit, Debenhams, Griffiths and Lewis were stopped. Officers asked if they could search Griffiths' bag, and concealed beneath a bundle of clothes, they found a collection of perfumes and aftershaves. The court heard the combined value of the stolen goods was £472.99. Mrs. Harbund said they were then walked back into the store where police were called. They attended and spoke to both of them and subsequently arrested both of them on suspicion of theft. Defence solicitor Peter Rhys-Jones said Lewis had been struggling to deal with the death of his wife, and Griffiths had spent a period on antidepressants following the death of her brother 2 years ago, but admitted he could not understand why they felt the need to steal. They were at a loss to explain why they did it when they did. Mr. Jones added that neither defendant was in any kind of financial trouble which would lead them to steal. Griffiths and Lewis were fined £75 each and ordered to pay £42.50 in court costs and a £20 victim surcharge each. All the items were returned undamaged to the store and no request for compensation was made. The 2 individuals are no longer allowed in the Carmarthen Debenhams store as a result of the incident. New turbine plans for solar park site. The Whitland farmers, who had a £20 million solar park built on their land, have lodged plans for a 67-metre turbine. Swansea's Seren Energy has been submitted the plans for a 500k turbine on Henllan Farm, which is owned by Mary and Tegwyn Davis of Caeremlyn Farm. Earlier this year, 60,000 panels were erected in more than 100 rows. In the application, Seren Energy says it will be erected on land at Henllan Farm, Henllan Amgoed. It continues, Mr. and Mrs. Davis are the owners of Henllan Farm. Their proposed turbine will provide electricity directly to their milking parlour. Making a stand over turbine. There was standing room only at Llanarthny Village Hall for a public meeting discussing plans for a turbine on land between Llandarog and Cefn-Abu. A spokesman for organisers of the meeting, called by concerned residents, said, Carmarthenshire Energy and Seren Energy have not yet applied for planning permission on this project, but there has been such a community reaction against the proposal in this area that the meeting was called. With growing opposition, we, as a community, are monitoring and awaiting the planning application before submitting formal opposition. The 243-foot wind turbine would be overlooking the Tory Valley if it is approved by planners, standing twice the height of Paxton's Tower. Beach walkers find triggers safety alert. An empty shell sparked an alert on Pendine Beach after it was found by a dog walker. Coast Guard were called to the public part of the beach near Dolwen Point when the case, suspected to be an unexploded bomb, was found. But when experts from Quinetec, which runs the nearby Ministry of Defence site, examined the case, it was found to be empty. It is understood the alarm was raised by a woman who was walking her dog with her granddaughter when she stumbled upon it. Quinetec has since advised anyone who does come across what they believe to be an unexploded bomb to contact the police immediately. A Coast Guard spokesman said, We had a call to an unconfirmed mortar near Dolwell Point. The range dealt with it themselves, but we sent a team to have a look and make safe the area in case the public went near. The call came in at 4:10 p.m. and they were there about an hour and a half by the time they checked everything. A Quinetec spokeswoman said, An empty and used mortar case was found yesterday on the beach close to Dolwen Point, adjacent to the MOD range boundary. Having been positively identified as no risk to the public, and under these particular circumstances, the object was removed from the area and disposed of in line with standard range procedures. Members of the public are reminded to contact the police if they ever find any suspicious objects. 99p shop targeted by thief 3 times in one day. A Carmarthen chocolate thief paid a heavy price after targeting the same 99p store 3 times in the same day. Howard Nicholas Thomas from Laugharne Street was not present for the hearing at Llanelli Magistrates Court, but had pleaded guilty to 3 charges of theft from a shop. After the 37-year-old was caught, he said he stole the chocolate because he was hungry. CCTV footage showed Thomas entering the 99p store on John Street at around 10 a.m. on May the 8th. He instantly headed for the shop's confectionery aisle. Prosecution solicitor Leslie Harborne said he selected a bar of chocolate worth 99p. He then concealed the chocolate bar in his hand and slipped it up his sleeve. At this point he turned and walked out of the shop without paying for the chocolate. Mrs. Harborne said he returned to the shop at just after 12 p.m. He selected another chocolate bar to the value of 99p and concealed it up his sleeve and exited the shop. He had then, for the 3rd time, entered the shop and concealed another chocolate bar up his sleeve before leaving without paying for it. The repeated visits caught the eye of a shop assistant, who drew the manager's attention to the gentleman. The manager reviewed CCTV footage from earlier in the day, where he could see Thomas enter the shop 3 times and on all 3 occasions steal a single chocolate bar. Mrs. Harborne said later that day he entered the shop for a 4th occasion, and he was stopped on that occasion and asked to go to the back of the shop. He was then shown footage of himself stealing and made a full admission. Police were called and he was arrested. In mitigation, Thomas wrote to the court to say that he had stolen the chocolate for sustenance. The combined value of the chocolate was just £2.97. Thomas may have thought he was saving a few pounds by stealing the confectionery, but he ended up paying a far heavier price. Magistrates fined Thomas £75 and ordered him to pay £85 in court costs and a £20 victim surcharge. He was also ordered to pay the compensation to the store of £2.97. Thank you. This is the end of the first episode. Thank you.